so let's go through some housekeeping. Please keep your phones off, on silent, vibrate. If you need to take a phone call, definitely don't feel shy. Just get up and go out to the hall where no one can be offended. But just don't have it ring in here. I don't want to hear your ringtone. Okay, so huge thank you tonight to our sponsors. We have a new sponsor tonight, and it's Igloo. So before I continue with my speech, I'm going to allow Joe Kapka from Igloo to come on up and tell us about his company.
It's not my company. Let's get that clear. So I'm not going to bore you with, it's only about 30 minutes and about 400 slides I'm going to put up. No, Igloo, so we're a software as a service company, .NET primarily. We have our front-end guys who do weird black magic and JavaScript and whatnot, but that's not real programming, so we'll talk about that. We have, so we do, most of our code is written in .NET. And some weird stuff in SQL. Again, that doesn't make any sense to me, so I won't worry about it. We have a lot of really cool new stuff and some painful old stuff, and we try and mainly take the old stuff and kill it and make a lot more new cool stuff. So we've been around for, at this point, as a thing for about 10 years, as a commercial company for about 8 years. And we build intranets. So for a lot of people, they wonder what does that really mean and what's an intranet that you really like. That's our tagline. The way I sell it, and sales guys aren't in the room, so that's good, is it's like Facebook, but for your company. You don't share pictures of your dog, you share contracts. And then you can like them and rate them and comment on them. It's all the same kind of stuff that you're used to, but it's not about your kids or your dog. It's about your colleagues and your work and your contracts. It works really well. People like what we do. And yeah, so we're growing, and if you are looking for your next opportunity, we're hiring.
And if you want to know why you should work there, I got to do a walkthrough when they had their open house. Their office is phenomenal. It's so freaking cool.
We got hoverboards too now.
It's pretty amazing. And I'm telling
only one
you,
death, and that's been a no.
I've been in a lot of companies, especially ones in the Waterloo area, and that was one of the coolest offices I've seen. That was really cool. Like, Google does have number one. I'm sorry. Google's like number one coolest office in the area, but Igloo's office is really, really nice. It's on King Street right downtown. Very neat how they have it laid out. Absolutely loved it. I actually was like, oh, I want to work here, but I'm a consultant. I'm going to stick with consulting for a while. So I also want to thank some of our other swag sponsors. We are going to be giving some prizes away in a little, like later near the end of the session. So I'll go around and make sure I got everyone's name checked off. In the meantime, if you love to tweet, use our hashtag. We definitely want to know what you think about the session. And rate the meetup at the end. Go onto the meetup page, give it a 1 to 5 stars. If you want to add a comment, let us know what we could do to make it better. It's really important for us to get that feedback. So I really, really would love it if you guys would take the time to rate it. It helps us plan future sessions and know what speakers to bring back and what content you like. If you have suggestions for topics that you want to see that we're not covering, post a comment. Just something on there to let me know, and we'll bring it in. And there is a job postings board, so if your company is hiring, feel free to go on, add a job posting. It's free. I'm not charging anything for it. Just take the posting down once you've filled it. That's all. It's a great way for you to have another way to promote your company and your job openings. And we are always looking for new sponsors and upcoming events. This is huge. So for March, I am flying in James Chambers, Microsoft MVP, out from Winnipeg to come here specifically to speak at our user group. He's not just going to speak at our user group. The topic is going to be an intro to Git. Bring your laptop with you. He's going to be running Code Kata, hands-on. We're going to have it classroom style set up in meeting room C, and it is going to be a fun night. So it'll be from 6:30 to 8:30, 2 hours, going to town on like how to use Git. Make sure you have your laptops all set up. He's a great speaker. I've had him out before. He's done a phenomenal job. He's really well received, and he's a really smart guy. So I'm really happy that we're going to be bringing him into town just for our group. And there's always the London.NET developers. They're having a session in February on Windows 10 development. So if you're looking for that, Hacker Nest. Yes, I got it up because I was double checking the date. Now, Monday, February 8th, Hague Boulevard. Text now. That's where it is. Go onto the meetup site, sign up for that. I'll be there. HackerNest is the coolest thing ever. If you guys haven't experienced that kind of event, go. It's just drinks and talking all night long. That's all it is. All right, it is. It's fun. It's fun. I'm sorry. Let's dev this. So that's coming to Toronto. Ken?
Yes.
Yes. Did you want to speak to it?
Yes. So I know there's a few of us who are going to be there. It's going to be a lot of MVP focused. All the MVPs are going to be speaking. Tom and I are going to be doing, as well as Rame Sayar from Montreal, we're going to be doing the web track. It's going to be a huge event. I asked Lori if I could specifically speak to this because about 8 or 9 years ago, Microsoft used to do big tours, big events, and then they stopped. They stopped doing this. So this is their way of getting back into doing big events. And if you like the big events, if you remember Tech Days and Dev Days, those big events that they used to do down at the Metro Convention Center with thousands of people and awesome food and great giveaways, this is kind of like that. But if this isn't supported very well, this will go away again for another 8 years. So I wanted just to get up and say, think about going February 8th. It's going to be at the BMO Institute of Learning in Scarborough. There's going to be 3 different tracks, web, cloud, and Windows 10. And the web track had already sold out. Well, sold out being a free registration, but there was 160 spots and they went like that. And they've opened up more spots. So if you want to get in on this, get in on this quickly. So.
And because it's on February 10th, normally I run a Xamarin session on the second Wednesday of the month. I'm canceling.
8th.
The 8th?
Yes.
That was the 10th.
Oh no, it is the 10th. The HackerNest got me confused. It is the 10th.
There.
February. It's the Wednesday of that week. It is the Wednesday of that week.
I was right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm canceling the Xamarin session that day because I don't want it to conflict with that session. So we will not be having a Xamarin session in February. We still will be having a .NET session at the end, later in the month. But just that's why I'm canceling February 10th, is to keep it open. So for anyone that wants to go to this, you're not going to be missing out on my awesome sessions. And I know that'll be heartbreaking for all of you. So we'll postpone. There's also a roadshow coming the end of February in Toronto. Seems to be a lot of good stuff. Prairie DevCon in Winnipeg. I'll be flying out there to speak at Prairie DevCon. James Chambers will be out there again, and there'll be tons of people, tons of great sessions. It's really well run every year. I've been to about 3 of them now, 3 or 4, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. And without further ado, I'll let Ken take over and start the session. So everyone, welcome Ken.
About 2 weeks ago, this had 19 people registered for it, and then it blew up, and I think we had 69 registered for it by the end of today. So if you got a seat, you're a lucky one. Hold on to it. You're going to need it. So hopefully no more people come in so that you guys can have some overroom. But yeah, nice to see such a great response to this. So this is all going to be about analyzing code, the new Visual Studio 2015 diagnostic tools. How many people are using 2015 currently? Awesome. So some of this might be new to you, but if you're using this diagnostic tools, you might get a few tips and tricks. I'm starting with base tracks, and we'll go from there, and we'll see what happens. So a little bit of background about myself. I have been a developer for years, but I currently work as a programmer writer. So that's just a fancy term for a content developer. So I develop and write content at the same time. I'm an MVP, TechNet Wiki Guru, which means I do a lot of TechNet Wiki blogging, or I write TechNet Wiki articles. Co-organizer of this group, and I also am technical reviewer of multiple books. If you need to get a hold of me, the green box there, you can find me. There's my blog, my LinkedIn, my email. If you have questions after this session and you thought about something and you want to know more about it, feel free to ping me on any of those. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. So when I thought about debugging, this popped into my head, and I thought, okay, let's do a poll here. How many people have seen this Dilbert cartoon? And I'll give you a second to read it. This kind of comes around about every 6 months or so. You kind of get it, and you'll see this pop up either on Reddit or on an email thread, and then it kind of dies again, and then it comes back up again. But how many people have actually seen this before right now? Oh, interesting. Okay. Anybody guess when this appeared? So this is going to be the trivia portion.
20 years ago or something? It's long. It's old, I'm sure.
It is 20 years ago, and I did not believe it. It's 1995 this came out. So this is pre-internet. This is kind of, thinking about debugging your software way back then. And so, yeah, this is 1995, even before the internet blew up. I mean, he's got an AOL email address. Like that's how old this is. But it's so funny. I mean, it just comes around every time. But so this is kind of where I wanted to start with debugging and just kind of thinking about debugging. And when I think about debugging, I love that line. We're going to rent me a new minivan this afternoon. So, and minivan is such a 90s word. We don't even really use that anymore. So. Talking about debugging or a typical debugging session, this is kind of the thought process is that where we are right now, we kind of realize, hey, there is a bug. We kind of throw a breakpoint somewhere where we think the problem is, or we best guess scenario. Try to reproduce the steps, hope it hits the breakpoint. If it doesn't, throw another breakpoint in, keep going. Maybe you use break all and try to find it that way. Root cause not identified, and you just keep looping and looping and looping. And these are the kinds of things that Microsoft sees when they run their tests and their product development seminars, and they kind of want to get past this, and they want to improve on this session, or on these kinds of problems that developers are having. So they came out with diagnostic tools. So diagnostic tools were a conglomeration of tools that were already in Visual Studio, and in 2013, they kind of brought them together in Update 2 under something called the Performance and Diagnostics Hub. So Intellitrace was already there. It was part of the Solution Explorer on the right-hand side if you enabled it. All of these things were kind of there. So if you're running 2013 and you don't feel like upgrading to 2015 and you kind of want to do some of the stuff we're talking about, to find it, you just go to Performance and Diagnostics under Debug, and you can launch similar type applications to this. So this was the precursor of the diagnostic tools that we're going to be talking about today. And starting in 2015, they came out with the brand new diagnostic tools window, or the diagnostic tools experience, if you will. So this brings about a whole new debugging experience, and the people who are using 2015, you can't avoid that diagnostic tools window. I mean, it's in your face all the time now. So it takes up half the page when you're doing your work. So it's active during the debugging session. You can turn it off if you wish. It's designed to change your debugging workflow, and the thing that Microsoft wants you to think about is not throw random breakpoints around anymore. They want you to think, what did Intellitrace find? And Intellitrace is one of the tools that has now been elevated into this diagnostic tools window. So the main components of the diagnostic tools window is the Intellitrace UI, which is this portion right here, this events timeline. This is all part of Intellitrace right here. You got memory and you got CPU, and within memory you can take snapshots and get perf tips and all this kind of stuff. So this is what the diagnostic tool window looks like if you're not very familiar with it. There are certain things that aren't supported that are being offered within the diagnostic tools window. The main thing is Intellitrace. You'll see that it's only available in the Visual Studio Enterprise. I added in the Visual Studio Code column here because I've gotten comments about that before. Is this available in code? It is not. So these tools are not available in code, so don't go looking for them there. If you want to get anything, even remotely, you have to go to Visual Studio Community, which is the old Visual Studio Express version. So community and professional are equal, but if you want the Intellitrace and with the more event categories, you have to go up into Visual Studio Enterprise, which is the highest level of Visual Studio you can have. To actually work with diagnostic tools windows, support project types, they support a lot of different things here. Because these tools have been around for so long, they're already baked into a lot of these different projects. So they will work pretty natively. I'm not going to read through that list. You guys can read faster than I can say them. But it's just kind of interesting because they do work with WPF and WinForms, and they will work with native code as well. So you can already see some of that stuff is already in there, and the ASP.NET projects are available as well, including the MVC and their new their Web API stuff. So it's kind of nice that you can already get that stuff baked in. Non-supported project types, Windows Store projects using JavaScript or running on Windows Phone, projects using Cordova or Xamarin, sorry Lori, they're not available. So if you want to use them that way, you cannot. They are talking about bringing them online, and they will maybe add those to future releases, but for now, those project types are not supported. So we're going to just look at a couple of the different sections first, and then I'll do a demo, and then we'll jump back and we'll do some more sections. So the first section I want to talk about is Intellitrace. Now, again, with the caveat, this isn't available in Community or in Code or in Professional Edition. This is only available in Enterprise Edition. But if you're doing any kind of heavy developing or debugging, you probably have Enterprise as it is if you're working in a shop. So you're probably going to have access to this as it is. So Intellitrace, you can think of it as a recorder for your debugging sessions. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to take a capture of your call stack as you're working through your debugging session. So if you're jumping between breakpoints, or if you're running to a breakpoint, or you're on break all, or whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to get all of that call stack information. You're going to get all of that local variable information as well in that moment in time. They've also brought in something called historical debugging, or actually made it a little bit better, which means that when you're in your breakpoint, or when you're in your working through your Intellitrace events, you can actually jump back to the point in time where that event was, and I'll demonstrate all of this, but where that event was, what the eventual variables were, and what they look like. So it's kind of a nice little feature to have, so you can actually see why was this should have been 3, why was it 2, how come that didn't increment, or whatever the case may be. They're all captured on a timeline, which I can show you as well. And the events timeline is split into 3 tracks. And we'll talk about what break events and output events and Intellitrace events look like. And Microsoft is very proud of the fact that you can get a lot of the information from these extensive logging networks, frameworks like Log4net or nlog, or even they want to throw around the word New Relic as well, but I don't know if it's that elevated, but without implementing all of that information. So you can get a lot of that information from this. From these tools without having to implement all of that stuff. The other thing we're going to talk about before we do a quick demo is perf tips. Perf tips are a nice little new feature that they've added in, which it gives you little timing blocks of how things are running, especially if you're stepping through code or if you're running to breakpoints. You can actually see how long little bits of individual code are taking. So they like to say no more stopwatch start, stopwatch elapse. So you don't have to bring in that time namespace anymore to see, okay, this took 6 milliseconds. Why did that take 6 milliseconds when it took 4 milliseconds? You can run this on all types of projects. It's already there. You can actually do it with remote debugging if you want in Azure. It all works. If you're remote debugging remote machines, it already discounts all that network latency for you. So if it's going to take a 3-second call to go out to that remote machine and pull you back some code, that's already been discounted. Maybe that 10-second lag has already been discounted. So don't think that your code is being affected by that, because it's not. So, and Microsoft likes to say take multiple measurements so you can get the range. So maybe it's between 5 and 10 seconds, or the median values. So you take multiples and you find out more about it. So that's going to be a lot of the slides for now. We're going to kind of get into the diagnostic tools windows and just have a peek around here. So